All right. The fifth member to Undying is going to be Kestrel. This is something we voted on, and I'm actually pretty hyped about this because I always favored Kestrel's kit in that she messes with summons, which zombie Kestrel does to a certain degree. I love the pings with defense down on the original Kestrel, which zombie Kestrel does with bleeds. Makes a lot of sense. She has a new battlefield effect, and it looks like she's going to have some plug-and-play viability with Exposed. Then there's going to be massive stat increases through the rest of the characters. A pretty big and important change to Scarlet Witch Zombie. Her kit already has an anti-turn meter mechanic, but it will also get that anti-speed stat increase mechanic similar to OG Emma. Hela will gain revive once, which is going to make her stick around a lot longer. And instead of one Greg on spawn, when zombie Kestrel's on the team, there'll be two Gregs on spawn, which does allow for the possibility of having a total of 3 Gregs on battle. So you can see the battles right here. There's 2 grades. There's a lot of little other things. We're going to get into the kit. And this is something I'm personally excited about. I would love to see Kestrel make it outside of Marvel Strike Force, maybe in another game, or I just would love to see her introduced into other Marvel properties or the MCU, whatever. Interdimensional undead. I like Kestrel is what I'm trying to say. What if a zombie wielded a portal cannon? Commanders are about to find out with the upcoming arrival of Kestrel Zombie. The Undying 5th member and newest Flesh Eater Kestrel Zombie upgrades an already formidable Alliance War squad to a terrifying offensive force that'll eat through most defenses that get in their way. Accompanying Kestrel Zombie's arrival are stat and select ability upgrades for her Undying teammates. Here's what Kestrel Zombie brings to the table besides a hunger for brains. Wow. A new War Offense battlefield effect, Undead Tenacity. Applies Exposed and Silence, a devastating, damaging ultimate ability, and then applies tons of bleed, and when enemies with bleed are attacked, she attacks. All right, let's talk about her battlefield effect, Undead Tenacity. Triggered on War Offense with Kestrel Zombie's special ability, Undead Tenacity activates on the player side and feeds her Undying team for battle. On Kestrel Zombie or her ally's turn, that character gains deflect, enemies can't gain passive assist, and Kestrel Zombie's team gains additional damage per enemy with Exposed. And she applies Exposed a lot of different places. Deflect is 100% block chance. The battlefield effect lasts until 14 characters, allies, and enemies have completed their turns. It's similar to, let's say, Franklin's battlefield effect inside of Arena. Go for the jugular. A ruinous ultimate. Just like her mortal counterpart, Kestrel Zombie's ultimate ability is a devastating attack with the potential to remove an enemy from battle. If her target survives the attack or War Offense, the foe will have 2 turns of trauma to deal with. It actually knocks down the duration by 2 and then does massive damage. So potentially will sidestep, any positive effects or even safeguard. Although I don't think they can get safeguard. There's something in the passive about, there's an anti-safeguard mechanic in their kit. Bleeding Good Zombie. You'll be seeing even more red with Kestrel Zombie on the field. She applies a ton of bleed, including on spawn, and prolongs bleed on enemies' turns if they have Exposed. Enemies with bleed can't barrier themselves or allies, and also can't gain charge. Now, this is of high interest to me. 129 is above average. It's pretty good. It's not high, but it's definitely not slow. Building Global Biotech Controller, Undying Epic. We'll have to see how that plays out. They're always a little bit different, but typically they've been pay-to-win type characters, definitely for sale. We're going to skip down to the passive because that's where a lot of the good stuff up, and then we're going to work backwards. On turn, heal self for 20% of max health. Clear all negative effects from self. If negative effects removed, heal self for 5% per negative effect removed. Call back to OG Kestrel. During ally turn, if an enemy with bleed is attacked, attack the most injured enemy for 300% damage and apply Exposed. So that's similar to the OG Kestrel, but that was with defense down. This is with bleed. On enemy summon, attack the summoner for damage and apply expose. So it doesn't have the anti-summon, but it does still have, a way of penalizing people with summons, where OG Kestrel had that unique mechanic where she basically just prevented the summon. Originally, that was an anti-Phoenix thing. Gain 15% crit chance and 25% crit damage. Revive with 60% of this character's max health. Now, this is where it gets interesting. On War Offense, on spawn, after other characters' on spawn effects, clear charge and all enemies. So no charge out there. Apply bleed. And if this character has 3 or more non-summoned Undying allies, apply trauma to each enemy. Well, that is going to be devastating, especially with bleed. On an enemy exposed turn, prolong all bleed on that enemy. Enemies with bleed cannot bury themselves or their allies and cannot gain charge. If this character is above 50% health, this character and Undying allies cannot gain ability block, and enemies cannot gain safeguard. Oh boy, no safeguard. They're going to have trauma, no safeguard, a lot of bleeds. Oh boy. I feel like this is going to be an I win button on offense. Now, the ultimate, which is a delete button, is the way that my understanding is. Gain offense up. Clear all barrier and all positive effects on the primary target. Apply 2 bleed for 2 turns, defense down for 2 turns, and slow for 2 turns to the primary target. Apply primary target for piercing. And then on War Offense, which I kind of wish you can figure out the order of operation, because you most certainly want this to happen before the negative effects are applied, blah, 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 before you do damage. Reduce the duration of all positive effects on primary target by 2. So, I hope that happens up here. I think it does. Apply trauma for 2 turns to primary target. Attack is unavoidable, cannot be blocked or counterattacked. Yay. Okay, let's go into the special, which is going to have the battlefield effect for war. Attack primary and adjacent targets for piercing on War Offense. If this character has 3 or more non-summoned Undying allies, apply silence to 2 turns to all enemies. So silence is kind of a tricky mechanic, but it basically prevents characters with silence applying negative effects, amongst other things. It does other things too, but that's the main one. If you have silence on you, you're not going to be able to land stun. That's one of the main things that it does. I think also prevents you, or the one that has silence, from giving positive effects to your teammates. First time this ability is used in a match, apply revive once to self and a random Hela. So Hela and her are going to have revive once. That's going to be great. On War Offense, clear battlefield effects on allied side. Apply the battlefield effect undead territory, undead tenacity to the allied side. This attack ignores defense up, is unavoidable, it can't be blocked or counterattacked. Undead tenacity. So here's the wording for the battlefield effect. On this character or ally's turn, that character gains +2 deflect up to a maximum of 5. Enemies cannot passive assist. Oof. Boy, that's going to affect a lot of important characters. This character and all allies gain 10% damage up to a maximum of 50% per enemy with exposed, and she's going to be applying the exposed all over the places. This battlefield effect cannot be cleared or replaced by another battlefield effect, and lasts until 14 characters, allies, and enemies have completed their turns. Again, this is going to feel similar to that of Franklin with his battlefield effect in Arena. Interesting. All right, then let's go to the basic right here. Attack primary target for damage, apply 2 bleed. Chain to 1 adjacent target and apply 2 bleed. On War Offense, prolong all bleed in each target up to maximum of 3. Counterattack breaks this chain. Then we've got the ISO 8 counterattack assist, which we're going to look at closely because this information is generally lost after this piece of paper here. It's not found in game, and this is what helps us determine whether or not we want to do Striker or not. Attack the target for damage and apply 2 bleed. On War Offense, prolong the bleed on each target up to maximum 3. I feel like that makes a lot of sense for Striker. It does. If not Striker, it would be Raider. But I think we're going to try Striker initially on Kestrel. Now let's go into the retouch and the reworks. Now there is some significant changes but a lot of it is just stat increases. So, for example, Zombie Iron Man is just a massive amount of stat increases. He was always a kit-based character, and then they just added a line right here on spawn. If this character has 2 or more non-summoned undying allies, apply speed up to 2 turns to self and all non-summoned undying allies. There, it was specific to like Juggernaut, Scarlet Witch. So now that'll also affect Hela and Zombie Kestrel. Okay, now Zombie Juggernaut is a pre-taunt tank. So he has use outside of the team and may be one of the better pre-taunting tanks in the game as a plug-and-play character. He's just getting massive stat increases. I still use Zombie Juggernaut today in Crucible as a pre-taunting tank. This is going to add to his life expectancy for sure. Scarlet Witch Zombie, stat increases. Now, her passive got a massive boost. In War, she had, if this character's health is greater or equal to 50%, speed of all enemies can only be increased by positive effects. So that is new. That is what I would refer to as the new Emma's passive. This shuts down speed stat increase like Man-Thing for Night Stalkers, or Nimrod does something similar for Orcus. Now, it's always had this. Enemies cannot fill speed bar for themselves or allies. That particular text was good at shutting out like Super Scroll. Super Scroll has tons of way of gaining turn meter, but this passive shuts that down. Hela, massive stat increases. Boy, she's one of the original characters that's been around a long time. I remember when she came to the game. I believe she was the first character I ever bought. Like, I had never spent money on characters, and I spent money on Hela. She was great. I loved her. Still love her today. Basically, on her ultimate now in War offense will be unavoidable. That'll be fantastic. And then on spawn, if Kestrel Zombie is an ally, summon an additional undead Asgardian, apply taunt to all undead Asgardian allies. So this is going to kind of feel like Kingpin a little bit, but there's going to be 2 undead Asgardians. We refer to him to at time as Greg. I believe in the code in the game files, undead Asgardian is titled Greg. And so we just call him Greg for whatever reason. I think it's kind of funny. But like with Kingpin summons a minion with taunt. That will also happen, but there will be 2 of them. There's going to be the initial one, the second one, and then they will gain taunt. Then if this character has 2 or more non-summon undying allies, gain a bunch of focus. And then lastly, undead Asgardian is going to get massive stat increases. So if we think about like the Orcus with the Sentinels and the Sentinel summons, those are relatively tanky. And I'm going to be curious to see how tanking the undead Asgardians. Are they going to just be super flimsy like they've been in the past? Or are they going to hold their own? Or is 440% of nothing still nothing? We will find out. Are you hyped about this? I'm pretty hyped about this. Animation's to me a little bit weird, but then again, I started thinking about it. It's like, what would I do if I was commissioned to animate a zombie Overwatch character? I think so. We'll have to see. Bye for now.